PlayStation is in talks to acquire the parent company of FromSoftware. That means that they could soon own massive titles like Bloodborne and Armored Core. Let's talk about this right now. This story is being reported via Reuters, who is saying that this deal could be imminent. Long story short, the report reads, Sony is in talks to acquire Kadokawa, the Japanese media powerhouse behind the Elden Ring game, two sources familiar with the matter said. As the technology giant looks to add its entertainment portfolio, the talks between the two sides are ongoing, and if successful, a deal could be signed in the coming weeks, the sources said. Now, I know a lot of people are probably excited about the idea of maybe getting a Bloodborne remake or a Bloodborne remaster, but online, the temperature that I'm getting is that people are a little bit more cautious about this. You know that Sony already owns Crunchyroll. They already have a large stake in the anime space, but the response to this hasn't been overwhelmingly positive, for lack of a better term. You have people like Cone Carnage saying Sony owning FromSoftware and requiring all future FromSoft games to require a PlayStation account login. He's making the wincing emoji face, which seems to indicate that he doesn't love it. Kind of weird that now we have to worry about all that with all future acquisition from Sony. And then Reuters reports Sony is in talks to acquire Kadokawa, the media powerhouse that owns Elden Ring and Soulsborne Studios from Software. And as I said, the deal could be signed in the coming weeks. Not in favor of consolidation, Nib writes, though would be huge for PlayStation. And Maka said, this is not just Sony wanting FromSoftware, by the way. Sony has been trying to monopolize the anime industry for years. They own Aniplex, they own Funimation, and Crunchyroll. Owning Kadokawa is absolutely massive. It's kind of scary how much control they want. Yeah, make no mistake, this isn't just about FromSoftware. Well, that would be huge, as Kadokawa owns, I believe, 68% of the company already. This would also give Sony a tremendous foothold in the anime market. Now, I'm not a huge anime fan, but some of the fans like Maku here is saying that they're a little bit concerned about that level of consolidation with the anime market. Sony declined to comment about the deal. Kadokawa said it cannot comment. I can't comment on it either, but you can hit that subscribe button, hit that bell to know what I think about the news of the day, and hit that like button if you like the video this far. Sorry. Sony already has a 2% stake in Kadokawa and a stake in Kadokawa controlled FromSoftware, the developer of the hit fantasy action role-playing game. Now, diving into this a bit further, they say Kadokawa began as a publisher in 1945, but has expanded into games, anime, events, and figures with franchises such as ReZero, in which a teenage boy is summoned to a fantasy world. Other franchises include Delicious in Dungeon, a manga series adapted into anime about adventures exploring dungeons and eating monsters they encounter. So that's all via Reuters. Long story short, this get would be absolutely massive for PlayStation. On the one hand, I think them purchasing someplace like FromSoftware would likely mean that they make those titles exclusive. Xbox is more about having an open ecosystem. PlayStation is largely about having a closed ecosystem. So if there was ever another Elden Ring or another Armored Core, there is a higher potential that PlayStation would make those at least exclusive to PlayStation and PC, but time would tell on that particular topic. Now, if you're also curious about some of the other gaming companies, I also just took a quick look at Spike Chunsoft Games. They're responsible for developing titles like Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, and they're a publisher in Japan of titles like Baldur's Gate 3, Cyberpunk 2077, and Dying Light 2. Now, industry consolidation has been something long discussed on this channel. I totally understand that if a company is out there looking to sell, that there is a chance that somebody could scoop up and buy them. So I'm not sure that Kadokawa is facing a hostile takeover here. This seems to be a deal they want. And the reality of the situation is if a company wants to be purchased, that's absolutely within their right. My concern lies with what does the future hold for titles like a Bloodborne remake or Bloodborne 2 or Armored Core in the future. You know, Bloodborne, as you can see here in this old trailer that I brought up, came out in 2015. We're now almost a decade away from when the original Bloodborne came out with no updates. There are fans out there remaking the game on PC so that it runs at near a locked 50 and has improved visuals. Unfortunately, there's a high likelihood that we never see a remake of that game. So maybe a potential benefit would be that we do get remakes or remasters or sequel to this beloved entry from FromSoft. But the downside would be, yeah, it absolutely would have a PlayStation requirement, a PSN requirement, locking hundreds of thousands of people, at least hundreds of thousands, if not millions of players out of being able to purchase and interact with these games. This has been a big story about Helldivers 2 and how Helldivers 2 saw massive success. And then PlayStation said, no, you have to require PSN. And now it's just restricted in a whole plethora of countries. And that has had a big uproar from the online community about some of the practices that PlayStation has decided to implement as they move forward with their acquisitions. Look at what's happened with Bungie. You know, Bungie had a 45% revenue miss. They had to have a bunch of layoffs. They had to get consolidated within PlayStation. And personally, I put that blame more on Bungie for over-promising and under-delivering. But the fact of the matter is all of that still happened. There were still a lot of layoffs, and we saw what happened even if you look over at Microsoft. Microsoft acquired this massive company, Activision Blizzard, and while the latest Call of Duty has been fire, time will tell if that winds up being beneficial to gamers, and it certainly hasn't been beneficial to employees as there's been a lot of overlap and layoffs throughout that acquisition. It seems people are concerned. I'm trying to be cautiously optimistic with this one, that at the end of the day, we wind up getting some cool games out of the deal. But this is one situation where it seems like most people online are left feeling a little bit uneasy about the idea of FromSoftware being acquired. I love FromSoftware. I love their games. I love the idea of getting to continue to play their games, but being purchased as part of your parent company being purchased to a platform like PlayStation or Sony is probably not the way that they saw their future going. So hopefully things wind up panning out. I'd be really curious to know what you think on this one. This isn't like a clear cut and dry, super negative thing. Obviously, Kadokawa wants to sell. PlayStation is willing to buy. Who am I to say that that shouldn't happen? I'd be curious to know what your thoughts are about it in the comments below. Well, I have you hit that subscribe button, hit that bell to know when my content goes live. This is probably the biggest story of the week, especially if this acquisition winds up going through. Thank you so much to the members for supporting this channel. Couldn't make this content without you. I greatly appreciate you. If you want to become a member, the kids are crying. I got to get out of here. You got to click that join button right down there. I'm going to go play with the kiddos. Click this video to see what I thought about the Game of the Year nominees and who I would pick. And I'll see you for the next one. Bye for now, everybody.